Uh, Respected organizers, distinguished guests, eminent panelists, ladies and gentlemen, future leaders, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Being the last is always the most difficult. So I'll try not to repeat what you guys have said, although I echo a lot of the thoughts and I recognize the technologies and the initiatives that are going on in the digitalization space. I want to give a little bit more organizational flavor and a little bit more of a industry flavor to what we're talking about, and I'll try to keep myself from repeating what you guys have said. But before that, I want to introduce myself. I'm Neeraj Sethi. I'm the country director for Baker Hughes. Like Mr. Vinay Malhotra, I'm also an alumni of the IIT Bombay, and I am 25 years after graduating, still in the oil and gas space. Very excited about what's happening today. Learning new things, even today. I think I've learned more in the past 5 years than I maybe have learned in the past 15 years. Because the pace of acceleration and digitization has a major role to play in what we're doing today, is very fast. And I assure the future leaders there at the back that you have many more exciting times for yourself. We are not only going to learn new things, but we're also going to revive some of the technologies that have kind of disappeared over the past 10 years, and the best practices are going to reappear. And I see a golden age of upstream oil and gas coming back online. So I'm very, very excited to be here. And I try to attend as many of these sessions and talk to some of the younger folk and encourage them to join the oil industry. Baker Hughes in India, we employ 2,300 people. We have 19 locations all over India. We work in every major basin. We also have a very strong industrial division. We work for all the major refineries and power companies in India, providing predictive maintenance and monitoring services. We are a large provider of gas turbines and compressors for the industrial space. And we are an energy technology company focused on energy security, sustainability, and the future. We have a technology center in Bangalore with 700 people. We have manufacturing facilities all over the country. We have a Pune Technology Center, and we've got bases in every major basin: Barmer, Northeast, Assam, Kakinada, Mumbai. We are a leading service provider for the prestigious 98/2 deepwater project, where we are providing all the deepwater trees and the flexibles and SPS SURF. And we're very proud to be associated with ONGC for that, as well as all the other customers that are present here. I personally have been associated with India for the past 17 years, and I've seen my company grow here from strength to strength, and we continue to grow. So when we talk about digitization, right, I want to mention that digitization for oil and gas is not new. In fact, I would say that in many respects, the oil and gas industry is a pioneer in digitization. As upstream professionals, what we have done in the past 3 decades, using supercomputing capabilities to process seismic data and generate insights into drilling our wells and making billions of dollars of investments, would not be possible without very, very intricate and very complex and very high-performance digitization. So we've been doing this for 30 years. We've been able to acquire, for the past 50 years, critical data and make decisions on drilling wells and on production. And we've had the capability to transmit this data through very, very difficult medium over very long distances. We've had that capability before anybody else had it, in the harshest conditions that are known to exist anywhere an industry operates in India. When you talk about a submarine going to the sea bottom, well, we start spudding a well at sea bottom, and then we go down 3 to 4 kilometers below that. So when we talk about technology, I think energy technology has capabilities that far surpass any other industry today, even today, including maybe, you can argue space industry and, satellite industries, but we do have the technology, and we need to be very proud of how we use these technologies. And we need to recognize the capabilities and the complexities that we go through in implementing these technologies in our industry. I want to give you an example of automation, and then I'll touch upon why I gave you this example. In 2020, we were put in a very critical situation here in India, where we could not send our directional drillers offshore because of the COVID pandemic. Half of my directional drillers were, COVID positive. We couldn't send them offshore. So we deployed a very simple technology. Well, it's not very simple. It's simple to use, but it's quite complex in terms of having a telemetry system connected to the drill bit 2.5 kilometers below the surface, connected to a telemetry system on surface, transmitting data on satellite to our office, and communicating with this office two ways. And we successfully drilled a very complex directional well, 8.5 inch section, for one of the leading operators offshore. The point is that we've been doing this for 15 years. In fact, we've been supporting from our center in Navi Mumbai multiple countries across the world before we drilled, it took us about 10 years and a transformative and a disruptive event to implement this digital technology in India. And there's a reason why I mentioned this. Now, what has changed in the past 10 years? What has changed? Vinay mentioned that, we've fallen behind on the digital space. What's happened is that the technologies which were confined to a small coterie of companies who had access to capital got democratized. The mobile phone that I have today would serve as a medium-sized server maybe about 10 to 12 years ago. So now we have the power of computation at our fingertips and in the cloud at unprecedentedly low rates that have never been available to most of the population and the other industries. And what that has done is that it created a network effect and a force multiplier on the economy of other industries. And they've leapfrogged and leveraged all these technologies and got ahead of us. As a result, shareholders are seeing growth and value in other industries. And our industries, for example, if you just see a market cap of some of the leading service companies and oil companies, are there to see that we are not delivering shareholder value. Now, many of the experts and consultants believe that this is because we have not adequately leveraged digitization in the oil and gas space and created value for our shareholders, in terms of growth, as well as in terms of the returns that we offer to our shareholders. Now, leading consulting firms would say that if you ask an oil and gas CEO and do surveys across the leaderships of most of the, and this has been done, less than 30% of the leadership would say that we are using our technologies effectively, that our organization is digitally enabled to deliver value where it counts. In our defense, we have been exposed to a very cyclic market. We are a highly capital-intensive industry, so I need to make decisions on very short-term targets of production and quarterly results, rather than a digital transformation or investing in digital transformation, which is expensive and may not yield results in an uncertain market where commodity prices are fluctuating. So we have certain limitations. Now, preceding this revival, we've had 10 years of some very bad commodity prices, which has made it even more difficult to innovate and invest in something that is going to yield results in maybe 3 to 4 years. Now, however, let's also recognize that these market realities, they also offer opportunities for us to become more efficient and get a leg up on our competitors. And that's what a lot of companies have recognized. And a lot of people believe that a company which is better digitally integrated will have the cost advantages over the competitors in the down cycle. And that's going to determine which companies survive, thrive, and which ones don't in this marketplace. A digital ecosystem is going to address some of these challenges, and I'll just touch upon why and how these can be done. I think, number one, effective and the ability to implement effective workflows on the seismic processing, geophysical interpretation. Today, with the computation power available, gives you the ability to reduce your risks when you're going for exploration, because capital is limited, and you can't be drilling 5 or 6 wells before you get an exploration. Our investors expect that we would hit find within 1 out of 3 wells. So, full waveform migration, full field inversion and pre-stack depth migration at the scale that we are conducting today was not feasible maybe even 7 to 8 years ago. And now we're talking about exascale computing with incorporating some of the elastic deformations into our workflows is only going to be possible by high performance computing. Second, as Mr. Jain said, improved reservoir modeling will give you more predictive and accurate reservoir models that then you can take to present a credible investment case to your investors. See, one of the problems that has happened in shale gas today and why people are not investing in shale gas is because the returns that we promised to our investors are just not coming. And so Wall Street has become distrustful of the projections that we are giving to the investors. If the softwares and the workflows that some of the simulation companies are projecting can give us those results with more accuracy, we will gain more credibility, we will attract more investors, and they'll say, okay, let's go and invest in an oil and gas company because these guys know what they're doing. They are the ones who are going to deliver results in 3 to 4 years' time based on what they're predicting today. And that's going to be very, very important for us to attract investors coming back into the oil and gas space. And for that, digitization and the ability to predict those production profiles and manage those production profiles is going to be very, very crucial. I've already mentioned automation. I think there is a huge opportunity for reducing our HSE footprint. We want to make our workplace safer. If you can eliminate 2 directional drillers from a rotation or offshore, I think you can save around 7 to 8 tons of carbon dioxide by not having to fly them to the rig in the first place. You can save approximately $20,000 a month in their transportation and fuel, transportation and accommodation costs. And if you multiply that across maybe some of the 30 rigs that just ONGC is doing in India, I mean, you have a huge saving, and it is feasible right now, right? So I think the adoption of these technologies can help us get to the efficiencies that we desire, and these are very, low-hanging fruits that we can exploit right away. The fifth one is driving efficiencies on a supply chain. I think this will be music to the ears of, say, KPMG or Deloitte, who advise very actively on supply chain. Having a platform, not just having a platform, but having a platform that offers to leverage your buying power, a platform that helps you create a competitive procurement system is very crucial, because that's going to be the difference between the cost that you are that you are getting versus what your competitor is getting. And last, you will also be able to reduce inventory. Now, we all have platforms in a number of companies, but are our platforms good enough to reduce that inventory level, to make it, our organization really that efficient, is going to be very, very crucial. So what is holding us back, right? And what's the kind of roadmap that a lot of, and these are not my thoughts, these are thoughts that I've researched from various consulting reports. What is the roadmap? What do people think about digitization and implementing digitization? I think we've heard a lot about the great technologies we have, the platforms that do things. But when we look at it at an organizational and an industry level, I think digitization is a mindset. And as the gentleman from KPMG said, it's also about making it core to our day-to-day operations. Digitization has to be core. If it is not, it's not IT anymore, it is digital technology, and it's ingrained in everything we do. It's about cultural change, and it's about organizational leadership. Changing people's way of working. I'll give you a couple of examples. Very simple examples, I will not go into very technical details, but going from a signed document to a digitally signed document, which we are doing today because of COVID. Stopping some of the last customers from insisting on paper invoices, right? A paperless office, or maybe no office, or a hybrid office, are things that are very radical, but they will save money. Real estate costs money. Real estate, is right there in the top 5 cost buckets that you will have. So I think digitization is driving that change, and having the energy and the persistence to make sure that you implemented this across across the organization. A lot of us who are old enough to have seen the implementation of SAP have struggled with it. And the first reaction is, I don't want to do this, right? And we have to have the organizational determination to make sure that that SAP is implemented and it is working for you. And you don't, it's working for the organization. And it's seamless and it's connected to the business. So that connectivity and that process workflows within your organization is going to be very critical. It is not just about having the apps in there. It's about having the apps in there, working for the business, and everybody using the apps the way they were designed to do. I think that's very important. That's only going to come with a cultural and organizational transformation. Secondly, look, I was asking Mr. Anand Gupta today, I said, how many wells are there in India that are producing? So he said there are about 8,000 wells. Actually, he said 6,000, and then we corrected himself after the presentation. To be able to leverage, this digital system effectively, you will have to have these wells connected to your digital. There'll be a physical layer connected to a digital layer. If you don't have that, then you cannot do any analytics. You cannot have any insights. You cannot have any visualization. So we will have to make that effort to make sure that we have all of these wells, refineries, reactors, pipelines, everything connected to a digital platform and have that data access. So we have to collect that data. Data is whatever the new oil, it's a cliche that people are using, but it is true that without that data today is going to be very, very difficult for you to implement an effective digital strategy, or it will be a fragmented, siloed strategy. You will have to get this data into a system, into your digital ecosystem, and have access to multidisciplinary teams. The third is a message, third and the fourth, I want to send a message to the future leaders here, that data quality versus quantity. Big data is not good data, always. Okay, so I want to we just back up a little bit. I want to talk about data collection system and data accessibility. Now, I want to commend the government of India and ONGC and everybody and DGH who support, who've implemented the National Data Repository. India has taken a great step in getting all of this data. I don't know, sir, what's the price of this data? Maybe billions of dollars of data on a single platform where anybody at the cost of transmission of that data can access this data. I mean, I think the students need to be aware of that there is a national data repository. Maybe there is a way for the institutions to access their data. But it's a futuristic step. To me, that step is like UPI for our industry. But when I talk about data quality, yes, the data is there, but is it connected in a structured format such as the OSDU or JSON or whatever people have today? Is it structured in a format where a software can go and read that data and extract useful information out of it? And is that data like available at a field level? When I go and see some of that data is all still scanned old reports that somebody's written from 1978. Now, yes, it's good data, it's there, at least it's a start, but I think conversion of the data to quality information is going to be very, very critical. And that's where the expertise and the experience and the knowledge and the specializations of the future leaders is going to come. The more the data, the more opportunities for us to generate new opportunities. And just because we haven't done that in the past doesn't mean we can't do more. And I'll talk about scale a little bit later. And so we have to be very, very careful that we do not lose ourselves in this vast forest of data, but we retain our expertise to be able to see what is good data, what is bad data, and which data can provide insight and reject the ones that is bad. So just because, you have a lot of, just like the medical field, like if you're a good doctor, you know what you're talking about. It's just like that we have to be, our geophysicists, our petrophysicists have to be thinking like doctors. They have to retain their expertise, lifelong learning, staying up to date with the skill sets that are required to see this data and make the right decisions in the future. And that's not going to change. If that changes, you will become a slave to the data. You will be relying solely on AI. There's this open AI chat these days. You can ask it a couple of questions and it'll give you some really nice answers. But if you go a little bit deeper, you'll lose it. We are a long way off from AI replacing the kind of integrated expertise-based decisions that we need to take in order to get to the point where we need to be on digitization. Fourth, every organization, and I think this is very core to Baker Hughes, right? We have a very, very strong DT organization, and one of the key pillars of that organization is cybersecurity. You must have read about cybersecurity incident in Saudi Aramco, I think 10 years ago, where I think almost every PC on that in the network, the data got wiped out. They had some data on the server, so they were able to retrieve something. But this happened again a couple of months ago. And that, if you don't build cybersecurity into the core of your digital strategy, you are setting yourself up for failure, because all this effort will go down the drain. People will say, why did we do it in the first place? So I think cybersecurity has to be built into it. It has to be built at the organizational level. It has to be built for users as well as for the devices that we're going to deploy and the sensors. So there are very complex protocols coming into play. There are standards being developed, and Baker Hughes does a lot of consulting and implementation of cybersecurity systems for the industry. So we take this very, very seriously, and I think most organizations today do take it very seriously. The fifth is silos. I think Dr. Bastia and a lot of people have mentioned digital strategy, which breaks silos, is going to be very, very important. I mean, you mentioned reservoir engineer and production engineer. I'd say reservoir engineer, production engineer, geophysicist, driller, petrophysicist, economist, commercial leader, sales leader have to connect and be able to see what is happening to their data. They need to know what is happening to the field. They need to know what is happening to the refinery. They need to know what is happening to the pipeline. I think that visibility across disciplines will be very important. And a lot of the future leaders are going to specialize in one or two branches, but that should not stop you from looking over the shoulder of your colleague and trying to understand what he or she is doing. The sooner you start doing that will be the time that you transform yourself from just being there's no harm in being an SME for your life, there's no harm. But it opens up opportunities into general management, it opens up opportunities for leadership, and that's what going to get you to lead a digital organization in the future. Last, sir, I want to mention scale. If anybody would like to guess, well, I've already given you the first answer. How many wells India is producing? I already told you it's 8,000. I want to just ask you a very simple question, if there are any guesses. How many wells do you think are producing in the United States today? Active producing wells in the United States. Any guesses? 2 lakh? Guess again? 1,000? 1 million wells. There are 1 million producing wells in the US today. So what I was trying to say is that our alternate industries have scaled up. The UPI industry, the financial industry, the fintech industry, they've all scaled up from being nothing to $1 trillion industries. It's because they imagined that they would scale up. They sold the story to their venture capitalists that we will scale up to this point. Now, we could get discouraged by saying, oh, in India we only have 8,000 wells producing and we only drill 700 wells, whereas in the US they drill 10,000 wells a year. But that's where the opportunity is. If we are only 3% of the market, even if we get to 15% of the market, you have multiplied your, you have a growth of 500%. And I think it is very much feasible. We need to be, as we said, we need to start acting like Dr. Bastia said today. We need to be the veritable cheetah, who's using all the tools and all the technologies at our disposal to accelerate this change, transform our digital ecosystem, and along with it, transform our industry. That's all from me. Thank you so much.